2 series, in 4 sentences. The first went looking for what software engineering actually is, found 7 problems that have not changed since the 1960s, and argued that AI broke none of them. It also argued that AI promoted 3 of those 7, intent, verification and value judgment, from part of the job to the whole job. The second series trained exactly those 3, 1 technique per episode, on 1 small feature in 1 support inbox. And in its last episode it killed that feature on air, on a criterion written down before anybody knew the answer. That is the ground this series stands on, and there is one thing standing on it that neither series resolved. Here it is, and I want to be precise, because this is where the trap is. This is not an 8th problem. The count was 7, it is still 7, 3 and 2, and nothing on that list has moved. The pipeline is not another invariant to add to the pile. It is the thing that reproduces the people who work on the 7, which is a different question and a harder one. The 7 survive. The people who solve them are made by a process nobody owns, nobody budgets and nobody is in charge of, and that process is coming apart. A problem with nobody assigned to it does not get solved late. It gets solved never. 3 numbers, then the mechanism underneath them. The first is a payroll number. Stanford's Digital Economy Lab has been reading administrative payroll records covering millions of American workers, and it finds that employment of 22 to 25-year-olds in the occupations most exposed to AI now stands 19% below where it would be had it kept pace with their less exposed peers. Experienced workers show no comparable gap. The shape matters more than the size. It runs through reduced hiring rather than through separations, and it shows up in employment rather than in pay. Nobody was replaced. The doors stopped opening. The authors call these early descriptive indicators rather than causal estimates, and I will hold that line every time I spent this number. The second number is one we made ourselves. Near the end of the first series, I counted, on a single day, every open role on the public job boards of Anthropic, OpenAI and xAI. 1,412 roles, 582 with engineer in the title. Of all of them, the engineering posts saying in their own text that new graduates or early career applicants were welcome numbered 3. And of the software engineering roles that stated a minimum, 63 of 71 wanted for years or more. Those are the firms with the strongest models and the deepest reason to hire differently, and that is what they are asking for. The third number is the supply side. The Computing Research Association surveys doctoral computing departments every year, and new computer science majors fell 13% in a single year, to 33,490. Total undergraduate computing enrollment fell 3.1% against a rise of 6.6% the year before, and the association calls that a reversal of a decade of steady growth. So the doors are closing, and the queue outside them is getting shorter at the same time. Those two compound, on a delay of roughly a decade, which is exactly the delay that makes them easy to postpone. So here is the mechanism, and it is what the series rests on. Call it the byproduct thesis. Software never designed its apprenticeship. No syllabus, no assessment, no budget line, no owner. What there was instead was a pile of work that was cheap to give a beginner and expensive to give anyone else. Bug queues. Maintenance. The migration nobody wanted. Review. On-call. The junior did that work because it needed doing and they were the cheapest person who could do it, and over about 5 years of doing it they turned into a senior. The teaching was real. From the ledger's point of view it was also an accident. That is the part that should worry you, because a byproduct has no defender. Nothing that arrives free gets a line in a budget, and nothing without a line in a budget gets protected when the economics change. Ask your own organization who owns the production of senior engineers, and watch it move. Engineering says it is a people problem, people says it is a hiring problem, hiring says it is a headcount problem, and finance can find the salaries and cannot find the formation. Formation was never priced, because on its own it never cost anything. That is not negligence. It is the ordinary fate of anything that works without being asked to. Then the economics changed. The tasks the apprenticeship was made of are almost exactly the tasks the machine is best at. The small bug with a bounded blast radius. The test nobody wanted to write. The migration. The first draft of the obvious thing. A senior with an assistant clears that work in an afternoon, and clears it well, and the seat that used to pay for itself stops paying for itself. Read that slowly, because it is the whole argument. Nobody decided to stop making seniors. Nobody held a meeting about it. The thing that made them was a byproduct of work. The work got cheaper somewhere else, and the byproduct went with it. Which brings me to the team, and I should say plainly what they are. They are this series' worked example, the same one the last series used, and every number I give you about them is ours rather than a measurement of anybody else's company. They are the support inbox team. They built a reply suggester, measured it honestly, and killed it on their own criterion, with that criterion written down before the result existed. The record is still on the wall. And they have hired someone. One junior engineer, out of a degree, and the first junior that team has taken on since 2023. So the question this series answers is a small one, and it belongs to them. What does that person's first year have to be? Not what would be nice, what does it have to contain, given that the year which made their tech lead in 2016 is not available anymore, because the work that year was made of has largely gone. That team has 5 senior engineers who all came up the accidental way, and not one of them can describe the path they took as a design, because it was not one. So they are going to have to design it, one component per episode, on air, and the checkpoint runs at month 12. Now the honest part, up front, so you can hold me to it. I do not have the fix, and I am suspicious of anyone who says they do. What I have is a history, a set of measurements, and a way of grading answers. So this series runs the history of how seniors were actually made and why the grunt work worked, then the present tense with the evidence at full strength on both sides, including the strongest case that AI is the best apprenticeship tool ever built, and then the conditions any real answer has to meet, with the candidates graded against them on air, including the ones that grade badly. No cure. Conditions, candidates, and numbers you can watch. So, the self-check, and it is a watch this rather than a do this. Count the juniors on your own floor. Not the head count, the juniors. Then name the most recent junior your team hired, and the year they arrived. Most people cannot do the second one without looking it up, and the year is further back than they expect. That is the whole exercise. The artifact is the watch numbers card, the 3 numbers with their sources and where to recheck them, linked below. And you will know it worked the moment you stop filing the empty junior seat under hiring. Next episode, the obvious question. If nobody was ever in charge of making seniors, how did this industry ever manage to make any?